Good morning, everybody. We have a higher trade in the grain markets here early on Friday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. July corn futures up 12 cents at 6.74. December corn up 13 at 5.79 and a half. July soybeans up 17 and a half cents at 15.66 and three quarters. November soybeans up 17 and a half at 14.21. July Chicago wheat up 6 and three quarters at 6.83. July Kansas City wheat up 6 and three quarters at 6.31. July spring wheat up 12 and three quarter cents at 7.90 and a quarter. Thank you for coming back and listening. If you're on the podcast, make sure you leave me a review or a rating if you have not already. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks guys. We've hit that 2,000 subscriber mark. That was the goal. We're going to shoot for 3,000 next, but certainly subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and make sure you hit the like button. That would really help YouTube to spread these videos around. Also, if you have questions, comments, anything, make sure you drop those in the comments on the YouTube video. I respond to most of those, and it's always great to get a conversation started. If you need some additional information from me, go to my website. It is www.standardgrain.com. Go to that website, click on Grain Marketing Plan here in the upper right-hand corner. For $49 a month, I offer a subscription service. It includes my morning email, which goes out every business day at 6:30 a.m. Central Time. That email includes every overnight headline that you need to be aware of, all sorts of interesting charts, graphics, weather maps, all my grain marketing recommendations, cash sales, capture and carry options. This includes a text message service, subscriber-only videos and content, which have been very popular. I did one just yesterday regarding a chart formation, head and shoulders pattern. What is a head and shoulders pattern? How does it work? What does it mean? What does it mean when people talk about it? This is just kind of one of many types of different topics that I discuss in these subscriber-only videos. This is a monthly deal built to your credit card that can be canceled at any time. There was some a little bit of a shakeup in the weather models yesterday at midday. So your GFS model, there's a bunch of different weather models, guys, that people pay attention to. But the GFS model, which is like the US model and typically the more well-followed weather model, shifted quite a bit wetter at midday yesterday for places like North Dakota, South Dakota, parts of Minnesota, and Iowa in particular over the next 10 days. And I think that spooked the market yesterday at midday, and that's why I think you saw that sell-off in corn, soybeans, and wheat, spring wheat in particular. Traders, this morning seem kind of unfazed by the wetter model. We've got higher prices here. You've still got that rain in the forecast for that GFS deal, so I'm not quite sure what the market's trading, if they're trading weather at all. But in any case, the markets are up this morning, and you've still got this kind of conflict. I'm looking at the European maps, and they still look quite a bit drier compared to the GFS. Last week's U.S. ethanol production was the best of the post-COVID era. Weekly output 1.034 million barrels per day was up 2.3% on the week and down 0.6% versus the same week in 2019. So ethanol production looks really good. Ethanol stocks were up 3.2% on the week, but remain at their lowest level seasonally since 2014. Gasoline demand down 3.5% on the week, but down only 3.1% versus the same week in 2019. We had been back to normal there for a minute. Or back to 2019 levels last week, but we kind of reverted back lower in regard to gasoline demand. Corn yields in Argentina, a little bit better than expected. Specifically, later planted corn has been yielding better than a lot of people had expected in some areas. 34% of the country's corn crop has been harvested. The exchange said in its weekly report, the yields of late planted corn continue to exceed initial expectations and are even higher than the productivity of early planted corn crops in some regions. They did keep their production estimate unchanged, however, at 46 million metric tons for the country's corn crop versus USDA's estimate of 47. China says that recent trade discussions with the U.S. have gone smoothly. So China's vice premier, this is the same guy who dealt with the Trump administration during the trade war and then subsequent trade deal, has had video calls recently with the U.S. Trade Rep's office and also with Janet Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary. These are the first such conversations during the Biden administration. This was the quote from the Chinese Commerce Ministry. China and the United States have resumed normal discussions on economics and trade, seeking common ground while setting aside differences was the consensus. So I guess we're going to be friends with China again. That could be a good thing, I suppose. JBS says that all facilities are operating after a weekend cyber attack. So there was disruptions in both the U.S. and Australia in particular following this computer hack. I think the recovery was quite a bit faster than a lot of people had expected. This was a quote from JBS. The criminals were never able to access our core systems, which greatly reduced potential impact. So, things moving back to normal here. Actually, a USDA official said that the markets are moving toward normalization after the jump in beef prices and the fall in cattle prices. I think a lot of cattle producers would argue that we're far from normal here, but that's what the government says. We've got an export sales report this morning at 7:30. Corn sales should be more moderate or modest relative to that enormous print we saw last week. We haven't really seen any flash sales from China here. So corn sales will be like, 100,000 up to a million, maybe old new crop combined. Soybean sales maybe up as good as 600,000. Wheat sales 200 to 600. Cattle market yesterday. Finished the day kind of mixed. Fat cattle were lower, feeder cattle were higher in some contracts. We'll see what develops today. Cash trade was 118 to 121, most of it at 119. Box beef was up yesterday. In the outside markets this morning, we have the S&P up just 3 points. The Dow's down 17, pretty quiet there. Precious metals are mixed as well. The U.S. dollar is just a couple ticks higher. Crude oil's up 16 cents at 68.97, and the July WTI bonds pretty quiet. So very quiet trade in the outside markets here on Friday morning. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday.